Hello, everybody. It is the Prophet Michael David, aka Aries, wishing everybody a happy April 20th. Happy 420. First of all, disclaimers. I know I promised you guys all that stuff on my Google Drive, but I've been working on my accident thing, having to deal with the insurance, and then also calling in for the petite jury thing every single day. Haven't been called in yet, so crossing my fingers. I'm obviously a little bit inebriated as well, but it's 420 and God wants me to work, so I'm working. Also, today is the day of that super rare eclipse as well, right? Yeah. It's also the same reason I'm looking kind of scraggly with the neck beard and shit. So, sorry, ladies. So before we go into what I was talking about in my last video about how insanely unique I am, as vain as that sounds, I will like randomly pick 3 sheets out of my handwritten notes and do like a short dissertation on them if I can. Otherwise, I'll just be like, I have no idea what I was talking about. So, as you can see, this is going to be more of an exercise in honesty and than like actually learning about math and stuff. It's a God thing. She wants me to do it. What do you want me to say? Okay, flickering through sheets as randomly as possible. I am not a magician. And I'm looking at the green dot, so. Still looking at the green dot. Okay. Yeah, those are triangles that I came up with dealing with the squares, and I don't know. The square's always going to make squares. So I came up with these triangles, and like it shows that it kind of shows how the gaps form in between the different numbers and everything. So I'll let you guys examine the sheet for a second. Yeah, it kind of has to deal with, again, how the spacing of the primes are if you put them into squares. And just as I made that, I realized how insanely long and boring that would be to some of you because it's over a minute. And rarely are my clips over a minute because I do, editing. So I'm only going to do one more. I'm not going to do 2 more. Okay, random grab number 2. All right, this one's pretty boring. I just, early on, I was converting base 10 decimal into base 12 and other bases. And I was trying to look for patterns and the different prime numbers that made up the actual numbers if they weren't primes. And that's the basis of the theory of arithmetic, I think. Look it up on Wiki if you want to. But yeah, this one's pretty boring, but that's exactly what it is. Okay, now, finally, how unique am I? Just from name recognition stuff and dates and signs. And where did I get the 1 in over 500 trillion number that I teased at the end of the last video? It's actually almost 1 in 555 trillion. I will explain. Okay, as I've stated before, my 2 given names are Michael and David, which is the most messianic name you're ever going to come up with. My ancient Hebrew name literally means who is as supreme as God, question mark, my beloved. David means beloved or my beloved. You're not going to get better than that. And even more than that, I am a Michael David who is also a son of David. They are independent figures in this context. I could be Michael David, son of Ned, or I could be Michael Ned, son of David. Don't ask me why I chose Ned. Just Game of Thrones thing. I have nothing wrong with Neds or Eddards. To do this part of the equation, you actually have to multiply the probability of being a Michael David times a son of David. So Michael times David times David. And I looked them up and they're pretty close. Michael and David are popular names, even, in the recent past and the distant past, but the odds are about 1 in 225 for each. So the chances to be a Michael David and a son of David is 225 cubed, and then, the reciprocal, 1 divided by that. And if you do that, 225 cubed, you get a number that is 11.3 million roughly, or 1 in 11.3 million. And that's just the chances of having the most messianic name that you can, which I do. Michael David, son of David. Okay, now we're going to go into super important dates. My biological birth was May 11th, 1978, as I've stated before. I was born on the mean and average of all Mother's Days. Look it up. May 11th is the mean and average of all Mother's Days. And it's super important in this context, as Gaia is the mother of creation, the great mother. Yeah, it's super important. So if you incorporate my May 11th birthday, the mean and average of all Mother's Day, into that 11.4 number, you get a number that's basically 4.5 billion to 1. And since there's only 8 billion people on the planet at the moment, and roughly half of them are women, I'm probably the only Michael David, son of David, who was born on May 11th in the entire world. But there's more. And this starts to delve into a subject that's called Emet, although it's a Jewish thing. It's basically the initials for the word of truth. A, M, and T. In Judaism, it's Aleph, Mem, and Tav, sometimes referred to as Tau. And those 3 letters together mean truth. So I was biologically born on May 11th, 1978. And 36 days before May 11th is always April 5th. And 36 days before April 5th is 3 out of 4 years, February 28th, except on leap year. Why is 36 important? Because as we discussed in the previous video, 36 is 12 times 3. It's a combination of 1, 2, and 3 in any way, which means it's godly. In conclusion, my parents were married on February 28th. I was reborn as Aries on April 5th, which is exactly 36 days later. My Taurus birthday, my biological birthday, is on May 11th, which is 36 days later. And here's the wild card. The prophet Tupac Amaru Shakur was born on June 16th, 1971, which is 36 days after my Taurus birthday. That's a very long way of saying I'm soulbound to Tupac Shakur, but I will elaborate in the future. I promise. Black people. So even without the Tupac Shakur thing, if you just add in my parents' February wedding, because it's part of the 36s, then the number changes from 4.5 billion to 1 in 1.5 trillion, because you have to multiply it again by another 365.24. And then finally, if you incorporate Tupac's birthday, as it is 36 days after my Taurus birthday, into the equation, then you come out with the astounding number of 1 in 555 trillion to 1. All right, again, happy 420, everybody. I hope you are all super high and super safe. Winding down here, next videos. I'm going to go over why April 5th, 2021 was the only acceptable day of revelation. Like, if there were any other prophets on this planet, they should have been popping out that day, you know? And then I'm going to put together my version of like a TED Talk on my twin prime theory solution. I'm going to detail it all out, how I did it. It's all in geometry. Like, everybody in the world that can do algebra or geometry will be able to understand. And then after that, if you're lucky, I might show you guys my disapproval or at least critique of the prime number theory. That's Carl Friedrich Gauss, and how it's not quite correct, or I can find an equation that tracks the prime numbers better than his. And in the meantime, I promise I will at some time, do the Google Drive thing and drop it on an email so that you guys can all look at the content. But as I have like 0 viewers right now, it's not a huge driving force, in me, especially since I have to deal with the accident thing and the insurance thing and the jury duty thing. I'm sure that will change in the future. Or on every given day, Gaia can tell me just to do it right now and I'll end up doing it. And then after that, if I actually have an audience or flock to speak to, then I'll start getting into the God stuff. What's the meaning of life? What happens when we die? How are we judged? Why are we judged? What's the meaning of life? All the questions that you all have been asking yourself your entire lives. Plus, as like an ultimate like biblical thirst trap here, being the ultra famous Passover baby that I am, I can also explain questions like, what does a bunny have to do with Jesus? And what do colored or striped eggs have to do with a bunny? All right, one last time because I got to do everything in threes, at least the important stuff. Everybody, happy 420. Be safe. And like I ended my last video, probably since I'm going to end all my videos now, remember the rules. Rule number 1, do not touch each other without another person's consent, aka do not hurt each other. And rule number 2, it's all about honesty. Lies are ticked down, aka try not to lie. All right. Y'all have a great night. I'll talk to you later.